Good morning, everybody. It's March 21st, Wednesday. Michael Smith. All right, so I guess I'm going to talk about healing. I did a quick video in another spot. It just kind of dragged on a little bit, so I'm trying this spot. It's not really my favorite scene, but I like a little bit of depth. It got a little bit of green and some roadway and some mountains, and I wish I could get the other angle because it's basically the opposite of the mountain that I had yesterday, but the sun won't allow that. We won't permit it right now. It's going to be too shadowy. Anyway, so I guess what I want to discuss was something in regards to healing. I made a brief mention of it yesterday. I kind of have strayed away from mentioning any of that, like throughout the course of all of this information that I've kind of projected. But ultimately, that is one of the benefits I feel. I don't want to say I've gained because I kind of feel I've always had this kind of tune in, but it's definitely become stronger. So some of the things I want to cover are why I feel it works and what makes it work. One of the most obvious things with healing is that you have to keep in mind is the placebo effect. You know, why does the placebo effect work? When you take a sugar pill and you're being told it's this kind of pill, why does it truly correct whatever ailment it is that they're trying to look at? I mean, really, they can't even determine, you know, what makes placebos work, who's going to make it work. In reality, it's just based off of the individual. And more times than none, that's what is going on, in my opinion, is that you have this belief in your mind that you're either doing something. Now, keep in mind, it can be quote unquote good or bad. You can either be thinking that you're a hypochondriac and everything you touch is a germ and is going to get rolled over onto you. It's going to absorb through your skin cells. It's going to come through your lungs. You're going to breathe it into your blood, or, you know, whatever it is, because I've kind of had notions of some of those like ways of being in the past, but I've always kind of steered away from that idea of it because I've been more in the other side of it where, like, I feel my blood cells are so strong that they are an army. My white blood cells, it is. Now, you got to have some knowledge of your anatomy and how it works, because without the mental awareness, you can't really project the defending of your castle, I guess. So you got to understand, you know, the white blood cells are what come in and they multiply when any kind of infection comes into play. That's the point of acupuncture, is they are actually intending areas of pain with needles. They are implementing areas with needles for the purpose of introducing white blood cells to that region, that location. So there's all this idea behind the white blood cells. It's a natural way of curing, of getting better. So if you understand that, in my mind, that I believe I have an army of white blood cells that are unstoppable, and that any sickness that comes into my body, they basically are expelled out either by defeat or by fear. I mean, I see it as a cartoon in my head, just a bunch of little blood cells, you know, with staffs and sticks and all kinds of armor. So in my own mind, I have my own visualization behind what's making it work. And that's the kind of other major half to this topic of being a healer or attempting to heal, is visualization. One of the biggest lessons I learned in all of my research that I've been going through is that visualization is so much more important than I even ever realized. And it's something I carried all the time and I always used, but I didn't ever realize how much you can use it for other purposes. And whether it be intuition, whether it be meditation, whether it be in, you know, communicating with these forces I speak of, it all requires the ability to feel it, to see it in your mind's eye. And I wish there was so much that I could just spill out onto like the platform right now and make you understand what it is I'm talking about, but you have to learn it in so many chunks and pieces. It's taken years for me to get to the level where I feel I'm at, of just constant bombardment of just information, just researching and understanding and new levels. And when you think you got it cracks open a whole new level. And I think that's why Freemasonry work in degrees, because everything's always graduated upon the next level of understanding. Like, once you understand something, it's time to move on to the next. So healing can be that something. I mean, in reality, we live in a world where you pick and choose all those levels that be. It's not no set path. It's not the same for everybody. What you desire is going to be different than what I desire, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to be so different for every individual. But visualization, if you can visualize and understand that that's a big part of being able to make yourself better, to heal better, whether it be canceling out stress, using visualization to somehow burn up the stress. One of the techniques, and I might have mentioned it in the previous video series that I was trying to do, was the violet flame. It's a technique in the New Age that says Saint Germain created this technique, which was a saint from like the 1300s or 1400s. But it was said that he had superhuman powers. He could walk through walls, he could levitate, he was supposedly this individual, but again, it's part of the New Age concept, but I believe there was a real saint in regards to it. But they discuss his technique of violet flame, which is basically imagining yourself engulfed into a violet flame, and it's violet because purple is the highest light spectrum possible to see. So when you think of the rainbow, violet's the final color. So essentially you're supposed to use that understanding to know that you're extinguishing all of that negativity and you're transmutating it. With all the exhaust that's coming off of it, you are transmutating it to something positive. That's everything. I mean, you have to basically understand that visualization is all of that. Like whether you use that technique or another technique, your mind has to actually create that tangible thing in your mind so that way you can associate to it. Like one of the things with memory techniques is that you have to associate images to a set of numbers. Some say 1 through 10, some go 1 through 20, some go through 1 through 50. But for each number, you have to associate an image to that number. And when it comes time to remembering phone numbers or remembering any type of series of numbers whatsoever, you would imagine this visualization per each number in a story form, and you would create the story and somehow attach it to another visual aid that would then tell you basically a way of storing information in your mind. Now, this is a big understanding. When I figured this out, it was my own wanting to learn memory, wanting to understand memory. When I figured this out, it made me understand why all the biblical teachings and the mythological teachings and the legends and everything are so outlandish, because in this technique you have to be so outlandish for it to stick. And the more outlandish it is, the more ability you have for memory of it. So visualization is going to be number one in any type of healing. I mean, another technique that is out there is, so for one, you got to know what it is that you're stressed about. For doing the previous technique, you got to kind of put effort into understanding what it is that's bugging you out. So you got to make effort to know that and then correct it by your visualization techniques. Another visualization technique is imagining a castle or a cathedral. And if you're trying to heal for somebody, it's also said that somebody has to want you to heal them. There's a psychic bond or connection that already gets created by them just willing it, of wanting your assistance and help and being able to aid them. So in that specific case, if that were to occur, you would imagine a cathedral, a castle, some form of religious spectacle in your mind that is so magnificent that you can imagine this person walking through the doors, and you essentially assign the universe or whoever your gods that be, your powers that be, to correcting whatever it is this person has. So if you have that psychic connection that's built and bonded by somebody wanting your assistance, wanting your aid, you would imagine them being corrected already upon based off of the powers that be, whoever your power may be entailing. So again, but what it comes back down to is visualization. The mind doesn't understand when it's visual or when it's reality. Two people, one who's imagining working out and one who is working out, can potentially produce the exact same results based off of the mind not knowing the visualization is just a technique. It actually believes what it is that you're trying to do or what you're visualizing. All of it's crazy. And the further you go, the more crazier it gets. But if you're trying to heal your own ailments, you got to know what it is that's stressing you out. For one, you got to self-reflect, take yourself outside of yourself, look at all the things that are really truly making you upset. Why are they making you upset? So for one, you got the self-reflection. For two, you have the imagination that you have to create for techniques to release or extinguish those stressful factors. Man, these helicopters. And for 3, if you're trying to heal somebody else, you want to be able to imagine a higher power at B that's controlling the outcome, and already imagine that outcome controlled, and that they're just waiting for that outcome to occur. There's so many more different techniques and tactics, but that's just like a basic understanding that visualization is always key. But when you really like hammer into the root of what's really causing this, how does this make it possible? How does it work? Is because belief is key. Belief of doing whatever act it is you're doing, healing yourself, working out. I mean, whatever the visualization is, your belief to that matter is going to be what transfers that matter into whatever state it is you're trying to transfer it to. Understand that we are all, even the air we're breathing, are protons, neutrons, and electrons, and they are malleable. You can actually manipulate them based off of intent and will. This is the purpose of magic rituals. This is why magic even exists, because there is a pattern that's noticed when you put effort and you put will and you put emotion into whatever said thing is, you get results. And the only way that becomes possible is because, in my opinion, the mind is way more powerful than we give credit for. Our mind is controlling our destiny, it's controlling our will to an effect. And in hindsight, we also have the ability to manipulate our will and to decide what it is we want to pursue. So it's kind of like a weird inverse reverse cycle, like it's flipping in on itself, cycling in on itself. In every direction or understanding that you go through, you have to know that that's always occurring. It's always positive, negative, and neutral. It's a big toroidal field. It's a donut that's constantly cycling in on itself, a figure 8. We'll leave it with that. I don't know. There's so much more I want to go into, but I just want to keep them short. And let's see how this one goes. So you guys have a great rest of the day. Thanks. Appreciate you listening to me. I mean, I struggle with the topics, but I'm trying to just at least keep consistency going. That way you can understand what it is I'm trying to convey here, because without me filling in the blanks, you have all these blanks you're filling in and thinking I'm trying to manipulate or possibly do, and it's the complete opposite. I'm trying to do only expansiveness. I'm trying to expand your awareness. So much more is possible in this world, and we just live on a bare minimum. And we need to be able to understand that there's so much more to it. We don't need to petty ourselves with all this squabbling and hate, and to be differentiated and categorized, because there is no category. Like, we are all one and the same. Like, to even call specific lands certain landowners, it just makes no sense. Like, we all live in the same realm. And to me, it just boggles the heck out of me why there's racism, why there's hate for others, or why there's all this going on. Because when it boils down to the nitty gritty of everything that's really making that the case or the cause of why that's occurring, everyone's pride or ego is getting in the way of themselves. And if we consider our pride or ego the only thing in this world, which is me, me, I'm only worrying about me, and that's all I care about. You're going to hear what I have to say. You're going to take how I got to do it. You're going to like how I got to do it. I mean, there's so much pride and ego involved in every single person. It's all battling each other. It makes no sense, but that's my belief. You guys have a great day. Thanks.